Hi guys and welcome back to my channel. Today I would like to show you how I install a new reinforced Spur gear on my Rival MT10. The original gear is made of plastic, that's too weak and can wear out very quickly. Exotek has finally produced a reinforced Spur gear made fully of metal. So I ordered it and would like to show you how I install it in this video. Then I heard that the front and rear differentials are only filled with a minimal amount of oil at the factory. Therefore I will also check the diffs and add oil if necessary. For this I will stick to the manual and use the recommended viscosities. These are 60k in the front, 100k center and 3k for the rear. First of all, you have to loosen a lot of screws on the bottom. So let's go! Under this large cover you can already see the center differential and the Spur gear. There are two more screws to loosen on the upper side. Then you can remove the entire rear axle and pull out the center differential. And here we have the plastic Spur gear, which we will take a closer look in a minute. I see there's already some wear on the Spur gear of my truck. But let's continue with the disassembling of the rear axle. Next I remove the 4 screws of the wheelie bar so that I can access the differential cover. Then it's always a good idea to do a little cleaning between the working step. It just makes work a bit more enjoyable. Then loosen the screws of the sway bars and the differential cover and then the cover itself. Now you can see the rear differential and simply pull it out. Now let's continue with the front axle. On the front axle there are again a few screws at the bottom that need to be removed. There are also 2 screws on the top side, just like at the rear. Once you have loosened, simply pull off the whole front axle. Of course I've also disconnected the link to the servo. And then you can remove the complete front axle. Then it's the same procedure with the differential cover, as you have already done at the rear. Just loosen the screws and you already can see the differential. In addition, however, the shock absorbers must be loosened at least at 1 screw, otherwise the drive shafts cannot be removed. Once you have done this, you can now pull out the diff. Before I continue, I first cleaned the differentials and the drive shafts. It feels much better to work on clean parts. Then I remove the drive shafts. The small pin that connects the drive shaft to the diff cup is simply unscrewed. Then you can pull off the shaft. So now it's getting interesting. Let's open the first diff. I'm curious to see how much oil we will find in it. Oh yes, here you can clearly see that there's not enough oil. It's really just a bare minimum. And now the second diff. Okay, it looks the same. There's also 2 less oil in there. With this low amount of oil, we obviously have a much lower locking effect of the differentials. And finally the center differential. Yes, as expected. Here again, the oil level is very low, but that's exactly what we are going to change. Let's compare the new Exotek Spur gear with the original one. The first thing I notice is that it is slightly narrower, but that shouldn't be a problem. Other than that, of course, it has 54 teeth and a 32 pitch, just like the original gear from Team Associated. The holes for the dowel pins are also present. Overall, it makes a very high quality impression. All we have to do now is to take over the outdrive, including O-ring and shims, the ball bearing and the sun gear from the original Spur gear. In my case, I could have worked with the old seal as well, but I also bought a new one for the housing. Yeah, maybe I'm a bit too much of a perfectionist sometimes. Let's fill the center diff with the new 100k silicone oil according to the manual. The 100k oil is quite thick. You need to be patient until it comes out of the bottle. This is how it should look. You can see how thick the 100k oil is. I'll put it aside for now and after a while everything will settle. I now do the same with the diffs. The oil settles a little faster here because it is not quite as thick. When screwing them together, you should make sure that you tighten the 4 screws crosswise. You do this so that the force is distributed evenly, otherwise the housing could end up leaking. Finally, the 100k oil in the center diff settled and we can reassemble it. Just like with the others, I tighten the screws crosswise so that the forces on the housing are distributed evenly and nothing is tilted. I clean up the excess oil and the job is done. When you now turn the outdrives, you should feel a noticeable locking effect. I have screwed the drive shafts back onto the diff and am now installing it. Make sure you fit the diff the right way round, as it fits in both directions. If you install it the wrong way round, the axle will turn in the opposite direction. Here's the fully assembled front axle. The drive shafts and the shock absorbers are back in place. Everything looks nice and clean again and is almost ready for installation. The rear axle is also fully assembled. Everything fits together perfectly and moves without any binding. Before the rest of the assembly, I cleaned the front bumper, the wheelie bar and the center diff cover. I also greased the bevel gears on the differential. I used the lithium grease from Traxxas for this. I recommend not to grease the center differential, as the pinion and spur gear are not in a sealed housing. If you would grease them, they would only attract dirt and wear out more quickly. Now I'm putting the whole truck back together again. The front and rear axles are being firmly reconnected to the chassis. And at the end, we will take it out for a little test drive. It is noticeable that the locking effect is a lot stronger now. All four wheels provide more traction on the gravel and the four-wheel drive effect is improved. It may not be so easy to see in this video, but the diffing out of the inner front wheel is clearly reduced. And I noticed that the typical screaming of the whole drivetrain of the MT10 has become a little quieter. After all, I would say that the work was definitely worth it. So I would recommend that you check the fluids when you buy a brand new MT10. I hope you liked this video. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I will see you in the next one and have a great day.